Every evening used to feel the same. The noise didn't stop just because the sun went down. It changed shape. It crawled through the blue light of my phone, through the endless scroll of things that didn't matter, through the small, invisible addictions that disguised themselves as relaxation. I thought I was resting, but I wasn't resting. I was escaping. And every night I lost another piece of myself. Not because something terrible happened, but because nothing real did. I didn't burn out all at once. I eroded, quietly. Until one evening I realized I couldn't remember the last time I actually felt silence. That's when I began experimenting with something I now call the 8 silent habits. Not productivity hacks, not spiritual rituals, just deliberate absence in a world addicted to noise. And those 8 habits saved my evenings. They didn't make me better. They made me still. And in that stillness, I began to rebuild. The silence before the noise. The first habit wasn't something I did. It was something I stopped doing immediately after work. I used to walk through my door and open my phone before I even took off my shoes. It was automatic, reflex. That one movement, unlock, scroll, escape, destroyed the entire evening before it even began. Now, I do something different. When I get home, I sit. Just sit. No music, no podcast, no talking. 2 minutes. That's all. At first, it was unbearable. You'll notice that. The first wave of silence feels like withdrawal. Your brain itches for stimulation. You reach for your phone. You want to fill the gap. But if you resist for 60 seconds, something happens. Your breathing slows. Your pulse evens out, and you realize the noise you were trying to escape was inside you. That 2-minute window became sacred. It was my decompression chamber, the border between chaos and control. Because if you let the first noise of the evening come from the outside world, you'll spend the rest of the night trying to quiet it down. But if the first noise comes from your own mind, you'll learn to listen instead of react. That's where discipline begins, not in effort, but in silence. The ritual of reduction. The second habit is about subtraction. Most people think self-improvement means adding more routines, more systems, more goals. But my mind was already overloaded. What I needed wasn't addition, it was reduction. So I started removing one unnecessary thing each week. One app, one tab, one object that carried the energy of distraction. Minimalism isn't about empty rooms. It's about emptying the mind of choices that don't matter, because every useless choice consumes energy that should belong to your focus. I noticed it first in my kitchen. I used to have 6 coffee mugs. I used the same one every day. So I kept one and gave the rest away. It sounds small, almost ridiculous. But when I opened the cabinet the next morning, the silence of that space felt like a reward. Then I did it to my phone. One screen, one folder, one row of tools. Every app had to earn its presence. And by reducing, I discovered the hidden truth of modern exhaustion. It's not caused by what we do. It's caused by what we allow. Every unnecessary thing you keep is a micro noise that fractures your attention. Reduction became my quiet rebellion against chaos, and each object I removed left behind something rare: mental oxygen. The discipline of doing nothing. Doing nothing is harder than working. You'll understand that the first time you try to sit still for 5 minutes without touching a screen. When I began this habit, I failed instantly. After 30 seconds, my mind started shouting, "You should be doing something." But that voice wasn't motivation, it was panic. Modern life has conditioned us to believe stillness is waste, that if you're not grinding, you're falling behind. But stillness isn't waste, it's maintenance. Every night, after reducing the noise, I practiced the discipline of doing nothing. No goals, no meditation app, no guided breathing, just stillness, raw, unstructured silence. At first, my thoughts attacked me. They came like static, overlapping memories, worries, fragments of unfinished conversations. But I let them pass, without judgment, without control. And after a few weeks, something changed. The chaos didn't disappear. It slowed, and I began to see the pattern. Every thought was just another attempt by my brain to fill silence with meaning. When I stopped reacting to them, they lost power. That's when I realized, you don't have to fight your thoughts to find peace. You just have to stop feeding them. And that's what doing nothing really is. A quiet refusal to participate in the noise. The cold cut, saying no without emotion. This one hurt, because for years I said yes to everything. Invitations, messages, obligations. Every yes was an escape from discomfort. The fear of disappointing someone. But silence isn't compatible with pleasing everyone. Silence demands clarity, and clarity requires saying no, cleanly, coldly, without guilt. So I started practicing the cold cut. When something didn't align with my energy, I said no. No explanation. No softening. Just silence after the boundary. At first, people were confused. Some took it personally, but boundaries aren't for others. They're for you. And the moment I stopped apologizing for my focus, my evenings started to feel like they belonged to me again. There's a strange power in quiet refusal, because when you stop over-explaining, you teach your environment how to respect your time. Noise feeds on reaction, and silence kills it. So I learned to say no like a surgeon makes an incision, precise, emotionless, necessary. That habit alone rebuilt my self-respect faster than any motivational speech ever could. The light audit, controlling my digital exposure. This habit might sound small, but it changed everything. Every night used to end the same way. The room dark, my face lit by the pale glow of a screen, scrolling through other people's noise. The algorithm had become my lullaby, and I didn't realize how much it was rewiring me. Light isn't neutral. It's psychological. Blue light tells your brain that the day isn't over. That's why you can feel exhausted but still unable to stop scrolling. Your body is begging for rest, but your screen is whispering just one more. So I started the light audit. After 9 p.m., everything digital went dim. No screens, no artificial glow, no dopamine spikes. Instead, I filled the room with warm light, candles, a single lamp, shadows on the wall. It wasn't about aesthetics. It was about teaching my brain that silence had a color. Within a week, my sleep deepened. My dreams stopped fragmenting. And I began waking up before my alarm. Not out of anxiety, but alignment. I realized that overstimulation isn't just a mental issue. It's a sensory one. And when you master your sensory environment, your mind follows. The light audit was my declaration of control. My way of telling the world, you don't get to hijack my biology anymore. The time mirror. Observing instead of escaping. This one came from a question that haunted me. Where did my time go? I'd look at the clock at 7 p.m., and suddenly it was 11. I hadn't done anything real, just drifted through distractions disguised as rest. So I built the time mirror, not a schedule, not productivity, just awareness. At the end of each evening, I'd write one line. What did I trade my attention for tonight? That single question rewired my behavior, because the truth is we don't waste time. We spend it without realizing what we're buying, and every wasted hour is a transaction of attention you'll never get back. The time mirror made me accountable, not to numbers, but to meaning. Some nights I wrote, I scrolled. Other nights, I walked in silence. And the contrast was brutal. That's when I realized time moves faster when you're weak. Not because the clock changes, but because distraction compresses consciousness. When you lose focus, you lose presence. And when you lose presence, life accelerates past you. So I started to slow down by observing, not controlling by time. Awareness itself became the antidote to chaos. The body reset. Listening to my tension. I used to treat my body like a machine that existed only to carry my mind around. I ignored its signals, over-caffeinated its fatigue, and drowned its whispers beneath constant stimulation. But one night, while sitting in that new stillness I'd been practicing, I noticed something. My jaw was locked. My shoulders were tight. My breathing was shallow, like I'd been holding it all day. It hit me. Tension wasn't just a physical thing. It was stored noise. Every notification I reacted to, every conversation I avoided, Every moment I pretended to be fine. It all left residue, and by evening my body had become the archive of everything I refused to process. So I started the body reset. Nothing complicated, no biohacking, no elaborate routine, just awareness. Each evening before touching my phone, I'd scan from head to toe. Where is the noise hiding tonight? Neck, chest, stomach? Then I'd breathe. Slow, cold, deliberate, until the tightness softened. Sometimes I'd stretch in silence. Sometimes I'd lie on the floor and let gravity pull the tension out of me. Sometimes I'd just sit with it, listening. Because that's the truth most men ignore. Your body remembers everything your mind tries to forget. You can't build discipline on a foundation of stored chaos. So I started cleaning it, nightly. Not by force, but by attention. And the more I listened, the quieter I became. The small endings, closing the day with intention. For most of my life, evenings had no real ending. They just faded, half awake scrolling until sleep finally won. That slow fade is where meaning goes to die. So I built a ritual of endings, not a routine, a ceremony. Every night before bed, I'd do 3 things. First, I'd write 1 line. Today, I stayed present for at least 1 moment. Second, I'd remove 1 object from my desk, clearing space for tomorrow. And third, I'd whisper a single sentence to myself. The day is closed. That small act changed everything. Because closure creates peace. And peace is what the algorithm can't sell you. When you close your day intentionally, your brain understands it's safe to rest. You stop dragging yesterday into tomorrow. You start living in clean loops, endings that protect beginnings. Most people think life is about starting strong. It's not. It's about ending quietly, so you can begin again with clarity. And that's what the 8th habit gave me. Permission to stop. The return to silence. When I look back now, these habits don't feel like hacks. They feel like rescue missions. Each one pulled a different part of me out of the noise. Silence before the noise taught me awareness. Reduction taught me restraint. Doing nothing taught me presence. The cold cut taught me boundaries. The light audit taught me control. The time mirror taught me accountability. The body reset taught me listening. The small endings taught me peace. But together, they built something larger. They built a man who finally knows when to stop. Every evening used to feel like a collapse, a slow surrender to distraction. Now it feels like a closing scene, a quiet fade-out where meaning returns to the surface. People talk about productivity as if life were an endless race. But what if the real strength isn't in acceleration? What if it's in stopping without guilt? Silence is not the opposite of progress. It's the maintenance that makes progress sustainable. When I stopped chasing stimulation, I began noticing details again. The sound of my footsteps on tile, the rhythm of my breathing, the way the night air feels heavier when you're actually present inside it. That's what these habits did. They didn't just save my evenings, they rebuilt the architecture of my attention. Now, when the world goes quiet, I don't panic anymore. I listen. Because silence is no longer empty. It's full of data, lessons, and recovery. The man who came back from noise. There was a version of me that thought burnout was normal, that being tired was proof of ambition. That version is gone. He didn't die dramatically. He just stopped showing up once I turned the volume down. The man who remains is slower, colder, quieter. He builds less, but builds deeply. He listens more than he speaks. He doesn't chase validation. He protects his time like it's oxygen. And every night, when the noise tries to return, it does. I remind myself, I've already chosen silence once today. And that's enough. Because silence isn't an achievement, it's a practice, one that starts over every evening. That's the paradox of peace. You don't find it once and keep it forever. You earn it repeatedly, by not reacting to the chaos that wants you back. So if you're watching this, exhausted, overstimulated, drowning in invisible noise, don't look for motivation. Look for the mute button. It's not out there. It's in you. Start with 2 minutes of quiet. Then reduce one thing. Say one cold, no. Dim one light. Observe 1 hour honestly. Release one tension. End one day intentionally. That's all it takes to begin your return. The rest will follow, naturally, because silence always remembers the way back.